This tutorial is to paint this beautiful scene that I saw when I visited Lake Superior last month. It was incredible. So what I've done, I've altered the horizon line a bit. This is kind of like in the middle of the paper, so in the middle of the image. So I'm going to make it a little bit higher. So I've got tape around here. I've got my horizon line to keep it straight. And now I'm just going to paint the sky. I'm going to turn this upside down so that I can focus on just the sky area. That will make it a little bit easier. I'm going to prop it up so that it's slanting down this way. So if you look at the reference photo, you've got bright sun there. And now I'm going to look at it upside down, and I'm going to put that somewhere along in here. So first I'm just going to wet the background and then drop in some of this phthalo blue and then dab out the sun. Okay, so I'm just wetting the sky area with clean water. I don't want puddles, but I don't want any dry areas. So you can angle it with the light to see the areas that are not shiny. If they're not shiny, then it needs some water. Okay, I'm going to start here at the bottom. Even though it's going downhill, it is darker and the higher the sky is. Now I'm going to add some water here. I'm going to tilt it, let it move around some. It's still wet, so I can add water. I can still do a lot to it while it's wet. So I'm doing a lot to it. It didn't get as smooth as I wanted. I think it needed more water. We can fix that. Okay. There we go. I'm getting a smooth wash now. I'm going to set it up a little higher here. I'm going to take a paper towel and lift some of this, pick up some of this excess paint here that's pooling here at the tape edge. I'm going to lay it flat, and I'm going to make my sun. I'm going to dab out the sun, try to make something that's kind of round looking. Take a damp brush and just kind of tickle these edges. I'm wiping it off because I don't want to spread the blue paint around. And dab it again, just the center of it. Yeah, that's bright. Dabbing some more water here in the center, and then picking it up. It's not perfectly round. That's okay. We're going to have some limbs going through that, some of the tree limbs, so it's okay. It's not perfectly round. Again, I'm going to dab some of this excess here at the bottom. Oh, that's really bright. I like that. Okay, we're going to let it dry. Okay, so for the glistening water here, I'm going to use masking fluid. I don't use masking fluid a lot. I try to avoid it just because I'm lazy waiting for it to dry. So what I'm going to do here is I've got some pretty thin masking fluid. It is, let's see, it's the Dr. P.H. Martin's Frisket Mask Fluid Level 2. It's really pretty thin. So I've poured a little bit out and got some on my toothbrush here, and I'm just going to flick some of it on the paper because I want really tiny specks of light coming through. That's a pretty big speck, but I can take that off when it dries. I'm going to use the same toothbrush with some of this masking fluid on and just come right up to the horizon line and just put some of this just make some lines. Okay, I think that's good. Now if you see the sun, it has some pretty harsh lines there. We can fix that later, but this is not, it appears to be dry, but it needs to be super, super dry before I start fiddling with that again. So we're just going to leave this masking fluid and let it dry. Okay, the masking fluid is dry. I've got this one big dot here that I'm just going to lift up because it's just too big. Just remove it. I think I'll remove a couple of these over here. They're just kind of big. Not all of them, just a couple. Okay, I think everything else is fine. We've got our reflection, our light right here at the horizon. So now I've got some phthalo blue mixed with just a little bit of transparent orange just to tone down the blue just a little bit. And I'm just going to start and do a wash all the way down. I could use some tape to protect that line. I'm going to try to do a pretty straight line here. I'm not worried about over here because there'll be trees. I should have used tape. Oh well, that's okay. I'll have a branch go over that. Just adding some water here, make it lighter at the bottom. Trees will be going over this area. I'm going to use a paper towel just to lift some of over here. It's going to have trees over there. I'm just taking some off. I'm going to see what I can do about that little spot there. See if I can lift some of that up. That's okay, I'll have a branch. Over here, I really should have put tape down to protect. I always think I can do it. Let gravity help. Just making some lines here. Okay, let this dry. Okay, this is dry, but I want it to be darker. I'm going to do another layer. I really want the whites to really pop. So I'm just going to do another layer. I'm not worried about the stuff on the left side because the trees are going to cover that. Okay, I think that's the values I'm looking for. Let this dry. Okay, this is completely dry. Now I'm going to remove the masking fluid with this rubber cement eraser. I may use my finger on some. Sometimes that's easier, especially little tiny ones like this. We're about to see some really bright white. Actually, this works better. My finger works better than this rubber cement, especially on the tiny ones. Now it might work better up here for the larger areas. Okay, now let's wipe all this off. And then just rub your finger over it. And if you feel any bumps, then you've got some masking fluid left. It should feel smooth. A little bit there. Look at my bright white. Okay, so now let's get working on the trees. Gosh, I love that. That's going to look so pretty coming through the trees. In a previous how-to video, I made some foliage 4 different ways using different brushes. This one I used something called a funny brush, which looks like it's just rubber bands bound together. Here, it actually is rubber bands bound together. I took some and tied the end here and then cut so that I could use the tips as a way to get pigment on the paper. And this was done with a stencil brush, and this was done with just splattering, filling your paintbrush with some paint and then splattering it onto the paper. So what I plan on doing is doing some splattering here, like this over here, and then doing some of the rubber band brush up here for the little smaller leaves. So let's get started. Okay, I've put a couple of paper towels here to protect the painting from being splattered all over. I need to cover up this little last section here, just to keep the dark foliage over here to stay over here and not go everywhere. So I've mixed two colors. I've got some sap green, which I mixed with a little bit of permanent rose to kind of tone down the bright green. And then I've got some Quin Gold mixed with some Payne's Gray to get kind of a darker forest green. And that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to start with the sap green mix. And then I'm going to add some of this darker green. This will be done in several layers. Okay, now I'm going to lift my shields here and then take a damp brush. I'm going to look at the photograph here and kind of try to mimic, copy where all the things are. I want to leave some white coming through. A damp brush. This kind of goes up some. I'm going to drop in some of the dark. Damp brush. Let's get some of this out. This goes up in there. Wherever it's dark, I'm going to add some of this dark. Again, I'm going to drop in some of this darker in different areas, give it some depth. It's really kind of dark down here at the bottom. Just keep adding where you think it needs to be. I'm going to make sure. That's just going to look so cool. I'm going to use some of this lighter green, drop in, and just let it go wherever it wants to go. Adding some Payne's Gray to this mix here to make it really dark. Let's add some darks in here while it's still wet. Make sure you leave some of this blue because you want that to come through the leaves and branches. Pretty dark here at the bottom. still adding darks. Just drop it in, let it blend, let it dry, however it wants to dry. Okay, let this completely dry. Okay, now I'm going to draw in some of these branches here. And I've got this sword liner brush, and it works really well to do little tiny branches. I'll just show you. You can make thicker branches by pressing down. Okay, I'm just going to kind of follow this. I'm going to fix this little area here that got kind of blappy with the sun. If I skip, don't worry about it, because I'm going to be filling it in with some foliage. Checking again to see if I have too much paint on here. Okay, let's let that dry. Okay, I've got kind of an olive green here mixed up. It's just a mixture of yellow ochre, a little lemon yellow, and phthalo blue. And I did add a little bit of permanent rose to tone it down a bit. I'm using my little homemade rubber band brush here to make the leaves. This works pretty well. Splattered a little over there. lot to the grass here, the brush. Okay, I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to add another layer of leaves. Okay, it's dry enough. It's not completely dry, but I'm okay. If it blends, it'll just make it look really cool. So now I've got some sap green mixed with a little permanent rose to kind of tone down the greenish. And I'm just going to go over let's add some depth here. I'm going to do this over here all over the tree branches as well. Give it some texture. This works really well. It's just some rubber bands. Okay, I need some more green mixed up. I just mixed up some sap green mixed with a little bit of permanent rose. Oops, and I splattered it everywhere. That's okay. Look like leaves are blowing in the wind. Here we go. Let's add some more texture to the trees on the side here. Painting with rubber bands. I never thought I would do that, but it really works. Okay, now I will add a little bit of this dark green that I used before, which was made with Payne's Gray and Quin Gold. I use just a little bit of it out here in these branches. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry. Okay, it's dry. So what I'm going to do now is add some more darks just right here where I see them. Some of these branches, I just want to define them a bit more. And I've got Payne's Gray, Quinn Gold, and a little bit of lemon yellow because it's a little opaque. So I'm just going to try to create some of these branches. It's easier to hold it. Might add some little bit darks here. Not a whole lot, just some. It's kind of fun painting with a rubber band. I need to mix up some more. I never make enough. That's okay. Okay, here we go. Just add some darks wherever you think they need to be. I want some darks around here so that that white really shines through. I want some contrast there. I'm at risk for overdoing it, but that's my specialty. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I've got some of this dark green, and I'm just going to do some little dry brush technique here, just at the edge here, at the bottom, where you would have some brush. And I'm going to do some more little leaves here. Oh yeah, I think it's getting there. I'm almost done. Just adding a few more darks here. Okay, let's let this dry. Okay, it's dry. There's a couple spots over here that are a little bit wet still. So what I'm going to do is I mixed a little bit of white gouache with some sap green. I've got a tiny brush here. Just use, you could even use like a toothpick or something. And I'm just going to add a little bit of lighter colors here, just where I think it needs it. Just some highlights where some of the leaves are kind of shining. The tips of the leaves are. Some down here, not a lot, don't overdo it. If you put one down, you don't like it, take a paper towel and dab it up. It'll still leave a little bit of the white. A little too much up there. Pick it up. It's a little too much. Dab it up. I want some light in here, so I'm just going to add some and then dab it. It'll give me some light and it won't be too much. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, I'm going to let this dry, and I think it's done. Okay, I'm calling this done. I really like it. It just glows. I love the sun. It turned out really good. So here is the photograph, and here is the painting. I just really, this brings back so many memories. That Lake Superior is named correctly. It is Superior. So thank you so much for being a subscriber. It means a lot to me. I appreciate your support. Thank you.